your name and rank, can you just start by saying that so we can get that on record?
Oh, I was a corporal, T5.
Okay. And your name is?
Alois Schulte is my right name. I go by Ollie.
Okay. So can you first start off by saying, were you enlisted or did you join?
Drafted.
Drafted. Okay.
I was drafted before the war. See, they had that 2 years, was it? I think it was 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
2 years, right?
Oh, like they got now. You know, the boys celebrate. They enlisted it now, and then they put them in the army right away. They trained to be in there, but we didn't have it. We had.
I think 2 was a draft.
Well, we had boot camp.
And 4 was if you volunteered. Wasn't that how it worked?
No, we wasn't a volunteer. We were drafted.
Okay.
And there was a lot of them drafted that had to, you know. And then when war broke out, they was ready in.
So you were in Quincy, and it says that you were in the medical field.
Yeah, I
Is that
worked in
correct?
a hospital, yeah.
Okay. And so tell me what happened after you were drafted. Tell me what happened after you were drafted.
After I was drafted,
Yeah.
oh, I went through boot camp, which consists of training, you know, how to use different guns and so on. And rifles, mostly rifle. And the only sidearm we had was a 45, and they only had 1 day of that. And when I shot it, I was shooting at a target, about as far from here to that big flag down there. And I aimed, boom, and the dirt kicked up there.
Oh.
So it was tricky to use one of them.
Where was boot camp?
Huh?
Where was the boot camp?
Down in Camp Crowder. No, not Camp Crowder. It was down in. You see, I was in Fort Dix. That's Camp Crowder. And then there was Mineral Wells, Texas.
Oh, okay.
Down in Mineral Wells, Texas. We call it the hellhole because I think those sergeants got a big kick out of it. Hit the ground, you know, and you hit the ground and it was sandbursts all over everything. Pull them out. And I think they got a kick out of doing that.
Oh.
And then I broke my ankle when I was down there. It
During
fall
boot
off
camp?
Huh?
During boot camp?
Yeah. We fell out for morning reveille, you know, and of course the barracks, there was about that much between the ramp and the door that opened, and I caught my head. I went forward, busted my ankle, and I laid up 6 weeks in the hospital. And then I was in the service with my brother, and we was both taking boot camp together. In fact, he was, when they came up, when you're a certain age, you get out, you know, and hell, he was 28 years old, and he was ready, had his name in, and he went down to get his mustering out pay. And they said, there ain't none. I said, you got to go back to your barracks. You've been canceled. And he says, what? I said, yeah. Said, it'll be explained to you. Well, they told him that it was all them boys are in service that were eligible to get out, but they they were canceled because Japan raided, you know, American soil, and we So then we were in war and he couldn't get out. Well, then he was shipped out. Well, he was shipped to Florida, or California. And it was funny, he was in the 40th Division. And he was shipped out. And then I was put in, shipped out
You were in the
about
40.
2 months later. And they shipped me up to Fort Dix, New York. And when they shipped me out of there, I still was unattached, you know, I was just in the service. So when I got in the South Pacific, I was in the 41st Division. They assigned me to the 41st Division. And we had to do all that damn stuff, boot camp stuff all over again over there in Australia. Shooting and all that stuff, and hikes and you name it. We had all that crazy stuff. I think they did that stuff to make you mad, so that you would be mad enough to kill somebody. And then after I got in that, I was in that a year. That was about a year and a half, and then the Oral Bay landing, and I never did see a live Jap.
Oh.
Saw a few dead ones, but no live ones. And I got up one morning and I had to go to medics because I was bleeding from the rectum. And they took 3 operations. Still didn't cancel. That civilian life I had it. I grew it, I guess. I don't know, quit. And I know the guys all tormented me while I was in service. They said that I was going the wrong direction when their shooting started. So I was put in limited service then, and then I was sent to this hospital unit, and the major said, "I see you work in a hospital." I said, "Yeah." He says, "And you're going to work in a hospital again." He says, "You're going to be staying here," he says. I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah, you're going to break in these 6 boys that's in with you." He said, "If you don't, I'm going to court-martial you." So what the hell? You got no choice. You taught them what you knew from civilian life. And I stayed in that outfit until I was shipped back to Australia, and then the rest of the time was in Australia. 37 months overseas. I only spent a year up in the infantry and about 9 months in New Guinea. The rest of it was all over Australia. That was nice. Beautiful country. Melbourne especially. They've got a park there that has trees from all over the world. And I was with this Aussie girl, and Sunday you didn't have nothing to do unless you wanted to go in the corner, sing with the Salvation Army, we called them. They were some kind of church organization. Had horns and everything like they had here. Well, we didn't want to do that, so we would go with a girl. They'd go to the park, maybe buy them soda or whatever we could get that they had. And she told me down there about them trees, and we went around looking at all these trees from all over. And she knew them all by heart. As I told her about the trees we got around here, you know, I said, "What about an elm?" And she said, "Oh yeah, there's one over here." I said, "A maple, and a soft maple, and hard maple, and oaks." There's a lot of guys in America don't know we got 3 different kinds of oaks here. We've got the white oak, the black oak, and the pin oak.
Were you a nurse at this time, or what were your
In
duties?
the hospital unit, I was in a hospital unit as a surgery technician is what they taught me to be. And I was in a surgery ward for, I guess about a year. And they said I should be a technician. So then I went in to be a surgery technician. I always refer to it as an extra pair of hands for nurses. We just hand instruments. We didn't know what the hell we was doing. And then the nurse was in there at the operating room, and they supervised it. In fact, we had one guy, I'll never forget him. He was a Tennessee boy. And the first thing we scrubbed in on was tonsils. They had a lot of them. And they set him in a chair, and they took a snare and cut the tonsils out with it. I was standing there in my chair, and his chair, about like where he's at. And he's sitting. The doctors had this chair they went up to the patient with. And he was sitting there watching. Oh, I was watching him, that's what it was. And the doctor went over and said, well, now this is what we're going to do. And they told him and everything. And they set him up in this chair, and I was sitting there waiting for him to come to me for my patient. Bloop, he fell. He did, bloop, right off the floor. Nurse come around and said, why didn't you catch him? I says, and go out there and scrub for 10 more minutes? I said, he didn't get hurt.
Did you like working in the hospital?
Oh, yeah, I came out in civilian life. Spent 19 years there. One time I could draw you, you're in they're part of you. It was interesting. I seen a woman that had a double uterine. I seen a woman that was just fully developed like you are, but didn't have no vagina.
Oh my God.
They did surgery on her, give her an artificial. And she got married and she adopted a child. And they had her name in for another one. Seen all that kind of stuff. In fact, the doctor said that he had two of them in Quincy that way. And the mothers didn't know anything about it. I said, well, we're not American, just sticks. How come they didn't know, Doc? I don't know either. He said, would think the mother would know something's wrong, but he said she didn't. The girl that was going to be married was 21 years old. And she didn't develop from the age of 3. She had a 3-year-old uterine, 3-year-old ovaries. She just didn't develop.
What kind of stuff did you see when you were over in Australia?
Oh, most of it was ingrown toenails, tonsillectomies, hernias, hemorrhoids, and one gallbladder. And never operated on any, and we never got into any women that was operated on, like nurses. We weren't in on that. The nurses took care of that. We don't know what the hell they did. And but we had all that kind of, like broken ankles and stuff like that. And I was in charge of emergency room one night. And this ambulance come in, and they had a captain and the PFC and a major. All three of them in the back of this ambulance, deader than a hammer. What are we going to do? I said, well, I called the officer, so I got the officer of the day, and he came and he says, we can't do anything for them. He said, they're dead. You damn fools, take him in town. He said, they got a marg in there, he said. He said, will you bring him to us? We're not miracle workers. No, he was mad because he got him out of bed. So they took him on in town, I guess. So at least they left us. That was the only thing I had. I was on duty that night. There was a ward master, and I was on duty, and we had a plane full of injured come in. Flew them all the way from New Guinea down to us. Some were bandaged or ready, and some weren't. But, we had a lot of fun. A little town called Rockhampton, we'd drink them dry. They didn't, and the Aussie men, they didn't like us. Said, you drink all our liquor and run around with our women, and said, well, Yankees, go home.
Did you ever see any combat at all?
Just a little, not enough to even speak about. I seen where when they first started. See, 41st Division was the first one that went over. And they didn't have all the laws and bylaws and stuff, so they had these fuzzy wuzzies, they were called natives. In New Guinea, they were little people, they weren't very big. But do you remember when the black people had this here afro? Hairdo, buzz?
Oh.
That's a fuzzy wuzzy hairdo. They did that all the time. And then they had colors. I don't know how they put the dye in their hair, but they had different colors. But they were something else. And they used to charge us $2 bob. That's 32 cents to take their picture. And they come there with a spear with a number 9 wire sticking out the end of it, like a fish spear. And all these colors on them. Guys, and they were sharp too. We sit here one Sunday, and this guy was in a tent with me, there's 4 of us. And this guy was laying there on the bench. He said, I ain't going to give him blinkety blank. Guy's $2 bob, he says. So he laid his camera on his pillow, and as the native got close enough, he just reached over and pushed the button. The native just kept coming. Came right up to the tent. He said, you take pictures, $2 bob. He said, how the hell he could hear? She said, he's too far away to hear it. I said, how did he see me? I was careful. But them natives are sharp. They used to, when we first got there, they give them $2 bob for every head they bought back, a Japanese head. $2 bob's a lot of money to them people. And they'd come back with a sack full of heads. They found out that a lot of the soldiers would send them back with these here prisoners, and they would get back there with the prisoners. They'd cut their heads off and bring the heads back. That's all they wanted, that $2 bob. But that didn't last long. They just got to where they sent a soldier back with them to make sure they got back alive. But them natives hated them.
What was your most memorable experience out of the whole time?
Oh, I guess going to get off a ship. The only time I got scared. We went over with the Santa Paula and the sister ship. And the sister ship was the Santa Paula, the prop broke on it. Well, we sit out there bobbing like a cork, back and forth. This thing sitting there is a sister ship. And all we had was little small caliber guns on that See, it was a luxury ship transferred into a troop ship. And back to Santa Paula, it had a big swimming pool, and where the swimming pool was, they run a pipe down and then run johns all around them. And that's what our johns were, was just in their toilets, was all long, big long row on both sides of the pipe. And that run out in the ocean, I guess. But but when we got to, I guess it was about 3 days before we hit Melbourne, they issued us rifles, and one clip of shells, which is 5 shells for an 03, and they said we was going to have to fight our ways to shore. A little dinky little 30-06 rifle. And we had 30 and 60 millimeter mortars. That's about the heaviest one our outfit had, company. Besides 30 caliber machine gun and a she was a 30 and got off. I forgot the big shell that used machine gun, a little larger than the 30. But that's all the infantry had, and then you had to depend on the artillery in the back. And they was back there a few miles. But them Japs, they was mean. They're uncivilized. They believed in their king. They worshipped that character. They did everything that he thought it should. There's a bridge they call, what's the name of it? There's a show. There's a whole lot truth in that. That show about the Japs when they built that bridge.
That bridge over River Kwai?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The way they treated those guys, there was a lot of truth in that. And our nurses, when they come in the air, because we had nurses, I guess, in the missionaries groups, missionary groups, and their little hospitals they had. They captured them when they took over the island, and they raped them. And a lot of them had babies. Had one that wouldn't go to, she was in our hospital unit. She had a baby. She wouldn't go back home. They wanted to send her home. She said, no. She was ashamed. She didn't want to go back to America. She had that Japanese baby, and she didn't want to give it up either. But there was a lot of those girls.
So did you come in contact with a lot of Japanese?
Just a few, not enough. Because the ones that, if I would have come in contact with, were way off, a long range, that you shot at. You never get up or shake hands and say, my name's so-and-so. You just killed them.
Did you kill a lot of them?
Oh, I don't know. I just shot. They hit the ground. They probably crawled off in the weeds and died, and maybe they just got back to their outfit. I don't. But we never worried about it. We just took care of our boys. If they got shot, we managed to give them first aid and get them back to the back line where they could get them to the medics. See, our blacks and Negroes, they didn't fight. They were made ambulance drivers, truck drivers, and stuff like that. ammo drivers, they drive these trucks loaded with ammunition. They drive them all around down through. That's what they did.
Okay.
But I had a lot of good times in Australia, though. I went all over Melbourne. That's beautiful. Rockhampton was all right too. There's a beachfront. We just dropped out. We had a fallout for. That's when we were having a boot camp yet, for the 41st Division, and we was at Rockhampton and out in the boondocks. I think the Army looked for the worst places to put a camp. Never a good place. And this is 3 miles out. And they dropped us out at 3 o'clock in the morning. They said, we got to get over to the beach. Japs are coming in for a landing. We got to get there to protect. There we was, stumbling over ourselves and going cross country through the damn weeds and stuff. We gets to Yeppoon. That's where we're supposed to come in at. It was a summer resort. Digged our foxholes and everything. Got all ready and got daylight. Well, they didn't come in. Go ahead and lay down. Lay down in your foxhole and sleep. So we went and lay down in our foxhole and fell asleep. About noon we get up. Found out there was an orchard down the road a ways. Tangerine orchard. We went down there and got us by a shilling. You get a bag that big and that high. She just give it to you, and you go out there and you pick and you fill that thing full for 16 cents. And we eat them until we got diarrhea. Then they had to march us back. That's why I say they did these things to make us mad, I think. Because they marched us back. We got halfway to the camp, big open field there, and we all had to lay out and put our full field pack down and lay it all out. Hotter than the 80s. There we stood, waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. Finally, here comes a guy up. He was a colonel in a Jeep. He talks to the captain. Turned around and went back out. The captain came along and said, well, after we stood out in that sun for a couple of hours, put your stuff all back in your bag, just pack them all up. So we're going to camp. Said it was canceled. Needless to say what words them guys was using. They weren't too happy, I tell you.
What is Pineapple Grove?
Huh?
What is Pineapple Grove? It's
Oh. That's where they grew pineapples. Did they put that down?
yeah.
That's where the officers, that belonged to the Aussie. Just like there's like down south they have their tomatoes and their patches, big fields. Well, they had these pineapples the same way. But the officers would take their nurses over into the pineapple grove to make love. And we had this GI, he was homesick, and he was crying. And I got the nurse, the little redhead, I said, I can't stop him crying, you can't too. So she went there and she said, soldier, how long you been in service? He says, 6 months. Oh my God, she said, I spent more time in the pineapple grove than you have in service. Stop that crying. I stood there and laughed like crazy. I thought it was funny. He didn't. He didn't like it. But there are a lot of crazy things.
Okay.
they had some good things there. They had a bunch of pork one time. They made a big pit, built a fire, and they had an iron grate, and then they laid these steaks and that all on this iron. And you go up and say what you wanted. They give it to you. You get a baked potato with that and a steak about that thick. You go and eat it and drink green beer. Beer, well, see, they couldn't keep up with us in beer. And we'd buy it by the keg. They'd send it out to our camp, and then we'd have a tent. They had this, sold this beer to us for sixpence. That was about 8 cents. You'd get a big aluminum, well, they're here somewhere, probably aluminum dipper like, and that would get yellow like you do in tea kettles and so. We scrub like heck to get that out of there, and you had to have that out if you had an inspection. Well, we found out this beer. We'd take that and we'd fill this here cup plumb full of this beer. We went back to camp and then we'd set it outside. Next morning we'd dump it out. It's just a shiny, just like a new one. That old beer, eat that up. The guys just said, just think what that's doing to our stomach. But no, they couldn't. The Aussies wasn't ready for that kind of stuff, I guess. But I tell you what they do, they did have Quonset huts. The big round like tin shed. And they was from here to that window way up there, long. And all kinds of liquor all around that thing. And you go in there and you buy what you wanted. And if you had a carton of cigarettes, they'd talk business with you right now. I told them I'd give them $30 for a fifth of whiskey. No particular name, just fifth of whiskey. No, and they ain't got it. Said, well, what about a pack of cigarettes? Oh, I can trade you on a pack of cigarettes. You meet me when I close the place up. So you wait there, and it'd be about 5, 6 of us. And then he'd open the door, and we'd go in, and we'd start down around the women. We'd stick them in socks under a belt, and we'd buy one. Next time he was wise to us. He wouldn't let us go. But one guy go around, and he'd keep his eye on him. Watch him. So we would, but yet that would only cost us 65 cents a carton for cigarettes, and he wouldn't take $30 for it. And we never could understand that part. We said they must have really charged high price for them cigarettes, because we got them real cheap, That we used to go in town on Saturday nights, and me and Joe Raboyak, he's a police boy from Chicago, there was a tent with me. And you couldn't buy any liquor sometimes. Maybe you didn't have cigarettes too. So, being on ward, they had a medicine bottle that would hold about 500 cc's. And then we'd pour about half that into another bottle, and we'd take it in town, and then we'd get a bottle of lemon Coriel. Actually, it's like lemon soda in a quart bottle. We'd pour some of that out, pour this 90 proof alcohol in there, and then we'd drink it. MPs would come up and, "What are you boys drinking?" I said, "We're drinking lemon Coriel. Let me taste it." And then He'd take it. Of course, alcohol you can't smell. And he'd pass it all around. Meantime, we'd take another bottle and, well, he never did get the bottle that had the liquor in it. We'd get good, drunker than coot.
Did you guys ever play pranks on each other?
Huh?
Did you ever play pranks on each other?
Pranks?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we had a big Jewish boy. He wouldn't take a shower. And we took him down to the damn shower and put the GI brush to him, GI soap. He looked like a baby spanked butt when we got through with him.
Oh.
He took a shower from then on. Yeah, there was a lot of them guys.
Did you make any close friends while you were there?
Oh yeah, Joe was a good friend till I found out that I don't know what the heck was wrong with him. When I made a ring for my wife, and I went down and I dove down in the coral, you know, it's in the ocean on the beach. And you get a snail, they called it, and they had a little shell that they would pull over the opening. It looked like a bird's eye. And you'd get those, and you cut that little shell off, that bird's eye off, put it in salt water and wash it up, get it cleaned up, and you made rings with them. And I made this ring for my wife. That's my girlfriend at the time. Gosh, I had to take a florin, which is the size of a quarter, beat, spend hours pounding on that thing. Because their money over there had more metal than it had silver. And you could solder that, but you couldn't our American money. So we'd pound on them, get them to where we thought they'd be right. Then we'd drill it and file it all out. And then I take what they call the tuppence. Was another piece of currency they always had. It was a little bitty thing, about like a dime. Wasn't as big as a dime. And then we beat that thing on a piece of metal and beat it till it was when your tissue thin. Then you cut it out and cut little clicks. And then you bend them over the solder at first to this ring. And then you put that set on there and then you bend it up. And it'll make a nice ring. And this little eye there, called bird's eye. I sent it home with him to get it to my girlfriend. He said he'd send it to her. Well, instead he sent her a birthstone ring. And I also paid off bills for him over there, $50 worth. And he's supposed to send that to my wife, which he didn't do, and he was my girlfriend. He didn't do that, and he didn't send her the right ring. But every year at Christmas, I get a Christmas card. For years. All of a sudden, they quit coming. Now, I don't know whether he died or... Now, he lived in the Polish district up there. And my wife and I, we was in Chicago, and we was going to go out there. And we went up, and this guy had a ticket. And we told him where we wanted to go, and he said, "You ever been there before?" I said, "Nope." "You don't want to go out there." I said, "Why?" I said, "If you do, you take your money and put it in the bank, your hotel bank." He says, Don't go out there with any money. He says, "And I ain't guarantee you're going to get cut back." My wife looked at me. She was a little girl. "Ollie, we don't want to go out there." She said, "Let him keep his damn $50." So we didn't go out. And I was going to go out there and see him, collect my money. So we never did. And I don't know whether he died or... He was supposed to come to the hotel. We told him what hotel we was at, and we'd meet him at the bar. We set up at the bar, and Deborah got pied, drinking, 3 o'clock in the morning. And he never did show up. So I never did see him since.
How did you keep in touch with your wife, girlfriend at the time? Did you write her letters?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, what they called, what did they call them yet? Little V-mailers? Actually, what they did, they were little cards. You made a little card you wrote your letter on, and they photostatic, took a photo of it, and they sent it back on like a reel, and then they would put that out on another piece of paper. And then if you had stuff in there that they didn't think you should be talking about to your girlfriend, they razor blade and they cut that out. My wife kept one letter. She says, "Look it. Now you make sense out of this." I said, "Hell, I can't remember what I wrote you." "Well, just look at it," she said. It was split all just like some kid had been cutting something. It was all cut up. They cut them out. And mailed it to her.
Did you send any to your parents?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I sent letters to them. But they cut theirs too. My brothers and sisters. See, I had, there were 7 of us boys in service.
Wow.
There's one over there, that square thing. I don't know if you saw it over here or not. It's got all the GIs from Adams County or state of Illinois. It's over here. It's like a little house, a little glass building.
I haven't seen that.
No, it's over there.
We haven't had a chance to...
There it is.
Oh, right out there?
See that thing over down there?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
It's got names of all the GIs around.
Oh.
that were from this area? Oh, so you guys,
And-
all of your names are on there. You and your brothers?
Yeah, well, there are 7 names there.
That'd be good to get a picture.
One brother got killed in the South Pacific. That's the one I was in boot camp with. And one brother came back from Europe. He had got caught with a machine gun. He lost one leg. He's still alive. Yeah, I think he's about 81 or 82. Married, had 9 kids or 10 kids. I don't know. So that leg didn't bother him. So,
Did you
And-
ever get injured besides your ankle?
huh?
Did you have any other injuries besides your ankle? That time you broke your ankle?
No, well, I was put on limited service for the hemorrhoid operation.
Oh,
TIA
that's right.
operation. And I was supposed to, I guess, go home, but I went down to General Hospital in Melbourne, and a nurse says, well, she said, would you mail this letter for me? I said, sure. Because she didn't want that, censoring her letters too, so. One day there was me and another guy who went to the nurse's office, doctor's office, where the charts were kept. I seen mine and I looked at it and just got it open and here he come. Well, he said, I guess you boys should know this. He said, you're going home. I said, no, I didn't get to see my car. I didn't read it. You just came in. Yeah, he says, you were going home. But he says, you ain't now. You're going back to service. They sent me back. Back to my company and the doctors and nurses back there. What are you doing back here? Well, they sent me back. So I told him, I said, you damn fool, you're on your way home and then you go goof it up. So, That's the way a ball bounces.
About 3 or 4 minutes. We could
Okay.
go.
Did you ever go back to Australia? Have you ever visited back there since then?
Did I ever go back there?
Yeah.
I wanted to, but I just couldn't afford it. I wanted to take my wife to Florida, but see, I got to spend 10 days. She was my girlfriend and said, Vera, let's get married. She said, no, not until you're out of service. I said, oh, hell, I'm about out. I said, you got a chance to have a honeymoon down there in Florida with the best hotel? I said, all free of charge. Come on. No. I said, well, okay. So we didn't get married. But I still had to go down there. I only had, well, I had one, we were supposed to have a series of them every day, how to teach us how to act in civilian life. And here this warrant officer was sitting on a chair, and they had us in a bunch of chairs. And the little bitty character there, I don't know why these little guys are so cocky. But he jumped up and sat on the chair out there. There's one of them said, Soldier, what's wrong with you? He said, well, you want to treat us like we're animals? We'll act like them.
Oh.
He says, class dismissed. We never had another class. And he got mad, that little boy did, that soldier. He didn't like that. Damn fool, she said. Think we forgot what civilian life was like? And then I had to be reinstated. And I was court-martialed. What happened? I was in town one time, Rockhampton. And these Aussie men, they would lay for the GIs. They knew we had money on us. And they'd get to beat the hell out of us. And on their shoes, they had cleats. Oh, heck about that now.
On the toes.
On the sole of the shoe.
So
And they'd knock you down and they'd put that, just grind the hell out of you. So I was picked up by the MP staggering down the road and taken back and locked up. I couldn't tell them. I was beat up by these Aussies. Well, they finally ended up taking me to the hospital. Well, it wasn't my unit, it was another unit. Hospital, it was next door. And they wouldn't leave it there either, that I wouldn't. So, company commander in my hospital came and he said that signed the payroll. He said, now you got 2/3 of your payroll was held back because you were court-martialed. I said, for what? For drunken brawl? I said, I wasn't drunk and fighting. I said, I told you they rolled me. I said, I ain't the only one that's got rolled out there. There's other GIs that's been rolled out there. Likely story. So when I got back here in Florida, well, they went through my records, and he says, what was your court-martial for? And I told him. He said, did they have a court-martial? I don't know. How they came up, I didn't know I was court-martialed until they come up and had me sign the roster, payroll. You weren't court-martialed, he says. That was a racket they was using over there. He says, taking your GI's money. He says, I'm going to pay you back, but he says, I want to know who your colonel was and who the officer's name was. I said, well, I don't know who the officer was. I said, they had me sign the payroll, but I said, my company commander was Colonel Waller. He says, okay, that's all I need. He said, we will pick him up. I said, he's in civilian life. Don't make a damn better difference, he says. We'll pick him up. And he says, he goes to court, he said, we'll get that money back. And he says, don't do things like that in civilian life. So they said he was going to call me for a witness, but they never did call me. So I don't know whether they ever got him or whether he died or whatever happened. But he was supposed to be picked up. And I got my money back anyway. That's when I was down in Florida. I run through $300 down there, and back there, that $300 was equivalent to $1,300-1,400 here today. That was big money. I did that in 1 month. That guy wasn't a bar downer, I didn't go in.
Well, you ready to close out?
Yeah. Thanks so much for telling us all of this. That was so great.
Oh, all right. If you make it public, don't mention my name.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, I hope.
And thank you so much for your service to our country.
Oh, that's all right. I ain't the only one.
We're sure glad you got to come over here, Allie.
Yeah, thank you.
It was so nice meeting you.